Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Storytellers. You're probably wondering why I have the Enterprise behind me, the bridge. It's because 55 years ago today was the first episode of Star Trek was aired. And extra points to anybody in the chat that knows which episode that was. Today, we have a special show and a special guest. And what we're going to be talking about is
Cliches, good ways to say what you mean what you say.
That's little Jimmy Buffett there. We're going to talk about cliches, those little things that they put in movies because they're too lazy to write something more interesting. And my brother and I, whenever we get on the phone talking, somehow, invariably, we end up talking about movies because we love movies. And we've gone on this over and over about all these different cliches. And we decided, well, why don't we do a show about that? Because that dovetails into storytelling. So without further ado, let me bring in my brother from another, that isn't true, not another mother, my brother from the same mother, Dr. Christopher Nolan. Hello, Chris.
Hello, brother from the same mother.
Hey.
Dad is proud that you corrected yourself on that one.
So, hey, give a little background about yourself and your qualifications to be educating people on storytelling. Who the hell are you?
Geez. Well, I'm the Graham Nolan's younger brother, so that's enough said, right?
You directed some great Batman movies.
I did, and I used to be one of your big fans, but you know, some of the later stuff was slipping.
I liked your old stuff better.
Yeah. So, so first off, thanks for having me. It's our first time doing something like this live. I've been a huge fan of yours since 1964 when I was born. And you were my older brother, and that I love that picture that you posted of us in Long Island on a cold. I know, actually, it's
Coney Island.
Were we in Coney Island then?
Yeah, that's the Coney Island because we're wearing the same clothes as the picture of us in front of the cyclone.
That's exactly right. I was thinking about that famous picture that we always send where we're in the little toboggan on Harmon Street we're all bundled up.
Yeah.
But the arm in arm, that's what I remember so much as you and I grew up, and you being 2 years older, 2 years, 3 months older, and we found our pathway in life through movies and through comic books, and of course you went on to do amazing things with that. But it was never lost on me about storytelling. We grew up in a hilarious family.
Yeah.
Obviously
natural storytellers, because we come from an Irish family, and
exactly.
And our father was the king of it.
Yeah. So when you get all these Irish cops hanging out, and it's bada boom, bada bing bing, it's hysterical. And you and I spent a lot of years just laughing in the presence of our father and all his guests. So all that to say, you became a cartoonist, and you've done very well, I must say.
Well,
frankly,
enough about me. Let's talk more about me.
Okay, well, you used to have some hair, and but
that is true.
But anyhow, so the joy of watching good movies, and then pointing out stuff that didn't make sense. We were doing that when we were kids.
Oh yeah.
Watching black and white movies and on what was that Creature Feature or whatever, or Chiller Theater, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We were just mesmerized. We got all the comics, and we got all the monster magazines, and so I went off to be a criminal psychologist. So part of what I do, I've been with the federal United States Department of Justice for 22 years, and I've been with the state and federal combined for 25 years. So I've been working with the underbelly, of America for a really long time. And so my expertise as a psychologist is not only to be able to come off confident in the presence of some of these really dangerous killers and guys who will read through bullshit. I mean, but also to create conditions where I can draw out their story. And so that's been part of my success as a psychologist, is to interview really nasty people who have prolific stories and draw those stories out to get a sense of realism about who they are and what they do.
Mm-hmm.
So while I continue to do my job with the feds, I'm still fascinated by watching stuff, in the movies, and some of it works and some of it doesn't, and some of it's laughable, especially with the crime stuff and the criminal justice stuff. Anytime we see a psychiatrist or a psychologist in court, it just cracks me up, because we just look like idiots, and well, some of us are not. I must say. But anyhow, so I come to this with gratitude. There will be, I thank you in advance, but there will be probably some people from the Department of Justice chiming in.
Cool.
From my work history, and let's have a fun time with it.
Excellent. Well, let's start with one of the biggies, and we're going to title this one, "What's That Noise?"
That's my Elvis water.
No.
No, I got it.
Okay, all right.
I got it.
The
But
title is "What's That
Elvis.
Noise?"
Hmm?
And what we're referring to is guns in movies and in TV shows. We grew up with guns because our father was a police officer, our grandfather. They were around the house. We were allowed to hold them and shoot them, and we were taught proper handling thereof.
Yep.
And when you see a movie and somebody draws a gun or pulls a gun, you hear all this rattling noise, especially if there's like a group of SWAT guys. They all draw up and go, what is that?
I have
What
no
is
idea.
it?
I would like. It makes me think of. Mel Brooks in Blazing Saddles. Why did I get a warped one?
Right.
So what's wrong with this gun that it's making all of this noise? Because they don't make noise.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's like the sound effects. People feel that they always have to put something in there, and if you look at some of the old movies, well, really any of the old movies, before they started doing that with the sound effects, they never did that. And in fact, they always really got it right. And in fact, you're going to love this one because. Okay. So
there he is.
This scene is from Chris's favorite actor, James Cagney.
Yes.
And it's from his one of his later crime films, White Heat. And the sequence is there's a guy in that trunk, and Cody Jarrett, he's a psychopath.
Yeah.
Says to the guy who's sort of a rat. He says, I can't breathe in here. And Cody's he's eating a chicken leg, and he goes, "Oh, what's that? You can't eat in here? Here, let me give you a little air." And he pulls out that 45, and the first thing he does, he's got the chicken in one hand, and I think he puts it in his mouth even, and then he takes his thumb and he takes the safety off, and then he steps back and he plugs 6 holes into the trunk and kills the guy. But the fact that they got that right, I love those things. When I see that in movies, especially old movies, that they get that stuff right.
So I agree, and thanks for showing that. I had no idea you were going to surprise me with that, because anybody who knows me and knows Graham and I together as movie fans knows that James Cagney is my number one guy.
He's this guy. John Wayne was mine, and Cagney.
And Cagney was mine, and so and what I like about that is he's so nonchalant about it, as you said, with the eating a piece of chicken. This is what real serial killers do. They have no ability to have empathy. So there's no distress about this. I got a piece of chicken, and then he shoots until he's clicking a few because he's run out of the bullets. Mm-hmm. Right. So it's almost overkill. It's like pop, 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 and then there's a click, click, click. I think there's two or three empty clicks. And then he's done, and he knows, this issue is solved. But to your point, is these oh man, I don't know when it started, but one of you mentioned SWAT teams. Every time I see any movie, I think of maybe Silence of the Lambs, where the SWAT team is hut, 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 and they're all climbing up, and then the elevator opens and you hear, with all the guns. And that's embarrassing because you shot guns and I have to shoot guns every year to requalify with the feds. Nothing rattles. And what's worse is when you see maybe like a Western where there's a rattle with a revolver. I was watching that Tarantino movie, and when I first saw it, and I was like, oh my God, when DiCaprio pulls the gun up to the little girl, you hear, and then he pulls it down, and then when he pulls it back up, you hear, it's a fucking revolver. What's moving on that? What's moving on that thing?
Right. So, if there's something moving, you don't want to pull that trigger. It's gonna blow up. The whole cylinder is gonna go up.
Absolutely. So that is a probably one of our shared number one cliches with that gun rattle.
And to dovetail on that, then there's the guns as punctuation marks. So you have the guy with the shotgun, and he's trying to get somebody to do something that he wants them to do. So it's like, all right, I want you go through that door now. Well, I'm not going to do that. Go through that door, So what is that telling us?
Well, it tells us, you and I, that he's going to do it 7 more times, and he's going to have to beat the guy over the head with an empty gun. That's what that tells us.
Well, it also tells us the gun was empty in the first place, because when he racked it, nothing ejected out, so there was no shell in the chamber.
Exactly.
So he was holding an empty gun on the guy.
So I call that not the exclamation point, but the exclamation rack. Mm-hmm. It's like okay, they're facing a bunch of zombies, and he's like, let's kill them, chick, and then somebody says, what? He says, let's kill them all, chick, and he racks it again, and you do that a few more times, and you've got a club. It makes me think of just spitballing here. Bugs Bunny. How many times did Bugs Bunny say that that means war? And then what's he going to rack his carrot? I mean, it's like, that sounded obscene. Sorry about that, but it's like, Bugs is going to rack his carrot when he says that means war. It's all of this need to have these dramatic sorts of telltale pauses that are just embarrassing.
All right, give me one.
What's that?
Give me one.
Oh, give you one. Yeah. Okay. Well, similar to the noises that guns don't make, there's the noises that knives don't make. And so every time you see a guy pull out a pen, you hear whoosh, 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 whoosh. This is our grandfather's bayonet from, I think, Germany. I think Graham used to be the guy about this. This is the one that he.
Yeah, that's a German bayonet. That's a World War II bayonet, I believe, isn't it?
I think you're right. Yeah, and you've got the one from France.
Yeah,
this is one from World War II. So watch this.
Shing! I heard it. Ching! Ching!
It's like, are you kidding me? It's like, and so every swing, if it's every knife sound or all of that stuff, and I get kind of what's driving that as a director, but I think that the funniest one was that back to that Tarantino movie. I swear to God, I could be wrong.
Which one, Django?
Well, Kill Bill was all about the swing with the knives, but Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I swear to God, I was reading about Charles Manson before I went to college. Before I went to Villanova and became a psychologist, because I was fascinated with Charles Manson, and so his interpretation of the Charles Manson family, hilarious kind of twist at the end, but. When Susan Atkins, the main kind of premier killer in that crew. When she jumps out of the pool at the end of the movie, recklessly, and she pulls out a revolver, and there's a swing.
Oh yeah,
You got to check it, because
yeah.
I've seen the thing. I've seen that ending twice, and I swear there's a swing when she comes out with the freaking revolver.
Yeah.
So this, okay, swing, whatever. But the fact that she pops out with a revolver and it makes a swing noise, unbelievable.
Okay.
That's
All right,
so I can't sleep at night. I can't sleep at night because of that one.
Yeah. I love that movie though. I think it's one of Tarantino's best.
And it was a heavy build there. It was a heavy build, and because I knew so much about that tragedy that I wasn't sure where it was going to go.
Well, I mean, everybody knows how it ended. And I watched that movie on a plane, and when the hairdresser takes DiCaprio's character up the driveway, it's very foreboding the way he filmed it. It's dark. The gate opens like he's walking into the gates of hell, and then he walks up, and then you have that sort of aerial shot of him greeting Sharon Tate, and then going into the house, but the camera remains stationary, and I'm sitting there waiting for the screaming noises or something like that. Like, the guys are in there, they've already butchered up somebody, and that Rick Dalton's going to get it now. And then the credits start rolling. The music starts changing, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is awesome!"
It was an alternative reality. They never got successful because Rick Dalton and the hilarious the
Brad Pitt character.
He just crushed them. With that scene with the dog food and the crushing of the head on the mantle.
On the mantle, the sound effects.
And the face just going, it looked like a Hobby Lobby doll or whatever, Dressy Bessie doll.
Yeah.
But so
that's his name. Thanks, Stat Zero.
That's funny. Yeah. So at that point, it was like he changed the reality. So I never had the sense of foreboding that you had, because I knew it was over, because the Susan Atkins character and the Tex Watson character were dead. So I felt like when he was in the driveway, it was over. That was not going to happen.
Right.
So anyhow, swing.
So let's see. The big one, of course, is the too cool for school, and everybody knows that one. That's the I'm walking away from an explosion, and the concussive force doesn't knock me down. It doesn't make me deaf. It doesn't even make me go like that. You know, it's just I'm walking, I'm lighting a cigarette, and I'm strolling away, and because I'm too cool for school.
Yeah,
that's what I call that one.
I call that boom zzz, means I'm asleep. Boom z, like z. I'm unfazed because I'm so. I'm so. Is that puppy jumping up here?
Yeah.
You see the puppy head? Yeah. Go ahead. All right. So yes, I mean, how many times has that been overplayed?
Yeah.
Somebody walking out from Denzel Washington to I'll let you fill it in. It's just so
they did it in Iron Man. You name it. It's almost a prerequisite, and that's why it's a cliche, because it's just constantly overused.
Well, your point. If you look at you look at again back to Tarantino. You look at Django. The D is silent. He's walking away. Again, he's lit the place up. Django. You got Samuel L. Jackson screaming, and the place blows up and it splinters. You use the word concussive. If you've ever been around a real flashbang, I mean a real instrument of explosion, you feel it. You look at the Civil War veterans that would come back and flinch, when the fireworks went off. I mean, this is part of hardwiring psychology biology, you don't walk away from an explosion like that and not automatically move. You
Sure.
watch every funeral procession that happens at Arlington, and when they shoot, you see everybody flinch.
It's an
So
involuntary reaction.
that's exactly right. It's strictly reflexive.
Yeah.
And so I don't care how pissed off you are, how too cool for school you are.
Mhm.
If you're walking forward and something blows up at that magnitude, you're going to have a reaction to it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No
Great,
doubt about it.
great selection there. Yeah.
Mhm.
Too cool for school. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Give me one.
Oh, so we were talking at a previous point. I remember when I was at Villanova University undergrad, I had a world literature professor, really kind of kooky guy, but man, he opened up my eyes and my ears to looking at literature that showcased really great storytelling.
Mhm.
I never got into the Shakespearean sort of scene, and I just couldn't wrap my head around certain language barriers or awkward kind of expressions of certain times. But in the mid 19th century, I remember learning about Anton Chekhov and learning about his concept of Chekhov's gun. And you and I have talked about that. So so you
Well,
might want to elaborate.
Chekhov's gun was a phaser.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
You see what I did there?
Yeah. And Inspector of the Gun, he survived. You know,
Mhm.
and he shouldn't have. You know, because
He showed up in Wrath of Khan and he wasn't even in Space Seed. So
don't get me started. Yeah. But Anton Chekhov was Russia's premier playwright and storyteller and short storyteller.
Mhm.
And he basically said, I'm sure your readers know this, but he basically said, if you're writing a play and you're describing a gun in set one, or I'm thinking music, but act one, if you're describing a gun on the wall in act one, by act three, that gun needs to go off. Otherwise, don't put it on the wall. And so the problem with that is if you get lazy with it, then every time you see a movie where some guy, I don't know, James Bond, maybe from Spy Who Loved Me, or what's his name, Mel Gibson in one of the Lethal Weapon. If you walk into a room and there is a fish tank, bye fishies. You know, it's just like bye fishies. You know, those fish are
gonna spill on the floor.
Come undone, and then you see the the little flopping thing.
Mhm.
So, but I think we've talked about. So I hate that. That's like, okay. So Chekhov's gun, I think, is important in a literary sense, but I'm not sure. I think it gets lazy it's like there's the one vase, it's like an antique vase. That's going down, or somebody's going to get hit with that thing. But as a storyteller in your world, you have a need to describe a scene or present a scene, and maybe the gun doesn't go off, right?
Well, yeah. In any type of visual storytelling, there can be things that are set dressing to add context or flavor to a background, but it really does have to mean something. If you have a gun on the wall, you're saying one of two things: that this person has a proficiency, or he has some knowledge of that gun, or he's going to use that gun. Now, as we had talked about when we were backstage, the foreshadowing of it is where the fun happens, because if you turn that cliche on its ear, like the example I gave is, you see the woman take her handgun and put it in her purse. Well, as soon as you see that, that handgun is going to be used at some point to protect her. But to make it interesting, I would not have her shoot the gun. I would have her fumble with it and say, fuck it, and throw the gun, hit the guy in the head, and, threat over. So that's a way to turn something on its ear, that you're foreshadowing is coming, and you're foreshadowing that event, but you're turning it on its ear and giving it a twist that the viewer isn't expecting.
Sure. And I love that. It's because you don't want to see that goldfish do the floppy bop, and the thing shatter. It's like and it's always in slow motion. The fish, but to your point, if she's running through the woods and she's got that gun in her purse, throw it at her. Well, I'll tell you what you ought to do is go like this. Watch this. Hey, stay away from me, you and then throw it at them, because there's no more bullets, because they're all tipped up to this.
Right?
Yeah,
that's one way to do it. Oh, these bullets are getting in the way.
That's right. Yeah, or pick up the bullets and flick them,
and throw them. Yeah.
Funny, but that's so. Chekhov's gun is one that I struggle with when you walk into a scene and you're like, okay, there go the fishies, there goes the mirror, the big glass mirror or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, there it is. So
right,
and I say it doesn't have to always go off. Yeah,
right, exactly. Okay. This is a modern trope, and a cliche, and it drives me crazy. But I'm going to call this one the hero landing.
Oh,
in every movie. Now, this landing, this pose, was actually from an Iron Man cover back in the 90s. And the artist name escapes me right now. Somebody in the chat probably knows who the guy is. And it was a classic, iconic cover. But since the first Iron Man movie, where he goes into this pose, now this has been the hero pose. And what makes it worse is when, it's one thing if Iron Man, who's all armored up, he's got weapons all over him, does this. But now they've had to take it a little step further. So now with the landing, they land with their head down. Then there's the dramatic rise of the head up. Now you're landing, somebody like Black Widow, they just came out with that Black Widow movie.
Right.
And there's a sequence there. She lands. She's in the throes of all these bad guys. Right. And her head is down.
Yeah.
To look up dramatically, like, okay, you're going to scare them. What
That's
is
right.
it?
Yeah.
And
what are those zany guys doing? Ooh.
Yeah. Wait, don't do anything. Don't shoot her yet. Let's look at her face first.
That's a great one. It was on my list too. I called it the dramatic drop. The pause and pose from the sky scene.
Mm-hmm. Adi Granov was the artist who created that pose for the first time. That has been ripped off by everybody. So thanks, Stat Zero, for coming to the rescue. I know I can count on you guys. So that one really gets me. Okay, you're up.
Yeah. Boy, there's one similar to that dramatic drop, pose and pause. And I'm trying to find it on my list, but it made me think of that. Okay. So similarly, right? So she drops in, and there's 1,000 men around who are armed, mm-hmm. and they're like, "What?" And she's head down, and then ching, 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 ching. So the other one is, again, I keep going back to Tarantino, but it goes way back to, the old John Ford movies and before that, where you've got somebody that's one against a million or a couple against a million, and you just have guys in the background moving. They're just making motions, mm-hmm. to simulate like something's happening. So think of Kill Bill, right? So she lands, and she's in that big scene where she's after the whatever the major Asian lady is, and there's all these guys dressed in black, and they're all sitting here like this. And if you watch that, you know, she's whacking them one at a time. She's doing her this and that, and ding, 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 pang, pang, swooshing, and all the guys in the background are just making motions. You know, they're just so. Again, the suspension of belief is that they would all pounce and kill. Instead, they're all just sitting in the background making, you know, if you think of McClintock and you watch some of the fights, you see the guys in the background just kind of being told to move around a little bit. And that way it creates this impression that something's really going on. That one drives me nuts because one person, if assaulted by 100, ain't going to survive that. I don't care how good you are. It's not going to happen.
All right.
And they're all in the background, just making motion with their swords instead of charging and pouncing. So anyhow.
Well, I'll have to say on that one is sort of going out of style because of the new style of choreography that's involved in fight scenes. They're designing choreography for the limitations of the actor so that the actor can do all the stuff. So they design the stuff around that. Whereas before they were, you know, big fight scenes, you know, they didn't choreograph them quite as well as they do now. You know, have you ever seen John Wick? Those movies, they're like, a violent ballet, you know.
And they have to train the actors to move in slow motion and make those moves and all this stuff. But in the end, it's still, you know, I love the fact that they're able to pull that stuff off because 1-on-1, 1-on-5 looks great. 1-on-100, and people just going swing, swing, swing in the background. You know, if you've ever been in the prison yard when everybody jumps on a guy, nobody's going swing, swing in the background.
Or if you don't buy into that, you got a short movie.
What's that?
If you don't buy into some of that, you got a short movie.
Well, there you go. There you go. But remember how we used to crack up at the John Ford movies where it was like a Norman Rockwell movie or Norman Rockwell scene where you got the dog who's like following the car, and the dog is like in the highest level of action scene. You know, Wings of Eagles, and everybody's on a jalopy, and it's a madcap comedy, you know, and you got these crazy noises. It's crazy. It's like so bad. So bad.
All right, let's see what we got.
What do I know?
What do you know? All right, whose turn is it? Is it my turn or your turn?
I think whoever.
Oh, it's your turn because I just did the hero landing, right?
Oh, you did, and it was on my list, so I kind of co-opted it. But every buddy cop movie, and our father was a cop, our grandfather was chief of police, uncles cops, everybody's cops, and I've worked with law enforcement officers, and a lot of times we don't get along, and sometimes stuff gets personal, but the classic cop movie is where I think of a couple things. One is Martin Scorsese's The Departed, and then I think of maybe Michael Douglas in Basic Instinct, where somebody's having or Al Pacino in
Heat.
What was that movie where he was a cop and he got in a fight with his partner? It's two partners fighting, and there's that overt scene in front of the other cops, and everybody just kind of jumps in and says, back off, back off. So anytime you see two cops fighting, you're going to hear back off. And it's not that easy. It's not that easy.
Clear, yeah.
It's not easy, but it's that every one of those movies, it's you'll hear grumble, grumble, grumble. Oh, freaking fracking. And then the final settlement is back off. And then they back off. And then, you know, they're getting held back and they're screaming at each other. And then somebody gets killed. But yeah, back off.
Okay.
Don't like that.
That's perfect because that dovetails into my next one, which I call retiree.
Retirement?
Retiring is the irony of you as a cop going to retire in the next day or next week, but
Oh,
you have the last case you have to solve. You
that's
have the
right.
last thing, and 9 times out of 10, you ain't making it out alive.
Yeah.
Uh, it's the as soon as you hear the cop say, another week and I'm retired, you say, bye bye. That's it.
Yep.
You're
Night
out.
night.
Hmm. Yeah. Oh, you poor bastard.
Yep. Every Colors. Robert Duvall. He's gonna retire. Night night.
Hmm. Yeah. If it's the sheriff in a western or it's a street cop, it's the same. Yeah, once you mention retirement, it's all over, and
That's
then it's about So that's called retiree.
I like that. I like that. Chicks dig the car.
Huh?
Stop. If you're gonna make a movie about an iconic character like Batman, out of reverence to Bob Kane and everybody who ushered him forward, including the Graham Nolan, you put Hollywood into it. Chicks dig the car. Stop it.
Hmm.
You never would say that, but it's that cognitive indolence, which is a term we use for all my psych friends out there that have listened to me for years talk about this stuff. It's just lazy thinking that you can dumb down the character to make him a little bit more pop with a funny line,
Hmm.
but it reduces the character. It just chicks dig the car,
Hmm.
or any of those pithy one-liners that come out of all of these. I don't watch the modern um, superhero movies. I can't get through them, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
Uh, and because there's always the wisecracking Flash in front of Batman, and he's got some sort of I don't know.
Well, you know what it is.
Doesn't make any sense. The chicks dig the
Snark.
car. It's like,
Yeah, it's snark instead of dialogue that reveals something interesting. Um, and I've been watching a bunch of the Bud Bedecker, Randolph Scott westerns recently, and the best ones were written by Burt Kennedy. And I'm struck by the dialogue in there because instead of utilizing a ton of um, well, film time for one, and exposition for another, he with a couple lines can tell you everything need to know about this character. So Randolph Scott runs into an old saddle tramp buddy, and he says, "You're a long way from home. I could say the same about you." And his reply is, "Yeah, but I can go back."
yeah, right,
That's all you need to know. There's
right.
another scene where he says,
That's good.
it's a long way to Lordsburg, and somebody might get the idea to take that woman from you." Somebody meaning you in particular. No, somebody like you, for instance.
Right.
And he says somebody like me in particular.
Oh, yeah, yeah. That's good.
That's great. That's I think very clever dialogue.
Yeah,
It tells you something about the character,
right.
and it's not self-aware. There's no pop culture reference
Okay.
in any of
Yep.
these greatly written films of the past. But
Right.
now everything is so heavy in pop culture, and I've talked about this in my monster things that I do. That what makes those B movies transcend their budget is the sincerity of them. That the actors believe what they're doing,
Right.
and so you believe that there's a
Right.
walking tree that's come to life and it's going to kill
Yeah.
people.
I didn't believe it, but they believed it. But yeah. What was it?
You-
Tabongo or Taban? What was that?
the Tabanga from Hell It Came. Yeah, horrible
Yeah,
film,
well,
but
that's where it should have went back to. I got to tell you that one.
yeah,
That one.
that's
That one.
what a critic once said too.
That one was.
Yeah,
But yeah.
that's the whole point. Is that
Right.
is
You
that
got
they're
buy-in.
not being clever; they're just being snarky.
Yeah, and they're trying to be. Yeah. Yeah. There's another texture to that, snarky, but also unnecessarily hip to play off of maybe a younger audience, to to use some language that is like, oh, that's my BFF. Like if Batman said that's my BFF,
Right.
That's that's not snarky. That's just being
No.
embarrassingly contemporary to hook, a population.
That's self-aware. That's where the character is self-aware of the audience and not the character, because he's not speaking from his internal motivations. He's speaking for you, for that. In the case of BFF, for that 17-year-old girl or 18-year-old boy or something, whatever. That's what I'm talking about. Is that self-awareness of the writer and not the character speaking. And, so that, like you, it drives me nuts.
Decoy cat.
Decoy cat.
Decoy cat.
All right, I'll take decoy cat for 500.
Okay. What is going to jump out of a cupboard while you're downstairs in a house that's probably occupied by a zombie or a serial killer, and you feel some tension and you're sensing something's wrong? What's going to jump out of the freaking cupboard? A cat. And it's going to be a decoy. It's going to be meow. And the guy's going to go, what the Jesus Christ? And then he's going to, ha. And then he opens up the fridge and pa-ching, pa-ching, he's out. He's jacked up with the, you didn't hear swing, but, he's jacked up against the wall. And then you got William Shatner in a mask, breathing heavily, staring at the body. But it's a decoy to create the tension, hustle the audience. Everybody knows a cat coming out of that freaking thing, or whatever.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Whatever it is. I call it the decoy cat.
Yeah.
And then there's the sigh of relief, which means 1,000, 2,000.
Right.
You got this in your back of your skull.
Yeah, they do a similar thing, which I call the medicine cabinet trick. So the person's in the bathroom, they open it up, and an overly loud sound effect of the pills falling out of the medicine cabinet, and they're like, oh. And then they close the cabinet, and the zombies right behind it.
That's right. As soon as it turns away, then there's the person.
They're like, oh, it's just the medicine. Yeah. Put it up. They close the thing, and
and there's the audience. What? You just want to smack the guy next to you and go, stop with the what? You knew that was going to happen.
Right.
Stop.
Yeah.
That's crazy. You should know better. Medicine cabinet on the other side, something bad.
What funny story.
Hang on a second.
Swing.
Swing.
Yeah.
Did you hear him back there barking?
Oh yeah.
That's the beagle.
Yeah.
Like your puppy with the hound, that
the wailing, yeah.
The wailing, yeah.
So a bunch of us one time took Ray to this William Shatner movie called The Hospital, and it was an 80s kind of slasher type thing, and he was in it. He wasn't the star of it. I think it was a woman. I can't remember her name now, but okay. So she walks into her house and doesn't turn on the light. Okay, that's the first one. Who doesn't turn on a light when you walk into a house and then walk across your living room or whatever? Okay, so it's not like the light doesn't work or anything. She just doesn't turn it on. So she goes in there.
No need.
And I forget what she walks into this room and she bangs into something, and there's this horrific sound, and it's scary as shit because you're not expecting it, right? And Ray just jumps through the seat. He goes, oh, that's it, I'm out. Because he can't stand those scary movies.
Yeah.
And the what it was she banged into her parrot's cage, and so the parrot is making some god awful scream noise.
Sure.
And again, the cat thing. It's the phony scare. Only they didn't follow it up with a real thing. I don't think in that movie. I thought it was just one of those setups.
If we're talking about the same Ray, you may recall we watched Night of the Living Dead in black and white. And he was like, "Okay, I'm out. This is." And while the guy is, and he's got the he's got the intestines, and and Ray was like, night night.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Hey, who's this guy?
Oh, Rob Graff, decoy beagle.
Yeah. Hey, Rob.
Right. He gets a couple swings. Swing.
Glad you made it to the show, pal.
Yep. Thanks, Rob. old friend of mine from University of Florida days, way back when. Yeah.
Way back. Okay, so okay, Geek Heroes. Geek Heroes.
Geek Heroes. Tell me more about that. I'm not
Geek
sure.
Heroes are computer techs that can hack into anything. Now, it takes me 20 minutes to order something on Amazon.
Yeah.
But these computer geeks
Yeah.
get into the Pentagon computer in like 3 seconds. They're like,
Yeah.
you know, they're
Exactly.
usually some overweight goth dude or girl, you know, with piercings out the ass, and they're up there typing, and they can get right in there, you know.
Oh yeah.
And they're so good. They're so good that they can actually hack alien computers. Because if you remember Independence Day, they go up there and they use their Macs and they get into the alien computer. Now, you can't even get into a freaking Microsoft thing with a Mac, but you
I
can
still
get
haven't
into
figured
this
it out.
alien computer.
I still haven't figured it out. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And to your point, all they do is hit a keyboard. They go and hit enter and it pop. What
Right.
the fuck is that? I'm sorry. Can we say that? You know.
Yeah, you can say it.
All right. 'Cause in my
Judiciously.
world, I say that a lot.
Judiciously.
But it's like, okay. Anyhow, it's like you see, they back up with a sense of entitlement, and like, how could you not understand how simple this
And
is?
turn the screen towards the person they're trying to impress.
And then everything gets decoded. You know.
Yeah. It's like they're writing code right there.
What was the Mission Impossible that I really liked with Javier Bardem? He was spooky villain. Was the one with Daniel Craig, and it was about where he grew up as a child. What was that one called?
That's not Mission Impossible. That's James Bond.
I said Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
Oh, I meant to say James Bond.
Yeah. That's Skyfall.
Skyfall.
Yeah.
And there's a scene there where he has to dial in. He's in an underground railroad system, and he's got to dial in. And you see instead of the obese guy with long fingernails, you got that really nerdy, super skinny guy with the glasses. And he's
that was the new Q.
Right. And so, and all of a sudden, boop, 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 and he decodes everything in time to say, okay, you might want to take 2 steps back because the train's coming.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that kind of oversimplicity, because I'm not a computer guy, but I work in an agency that puts a lot of pressure on people to make sure we have security and so anybody who can go like this and all of a sudden unlock, a key to the universe is crazy.
Yeah. Stop an invasion.
Stop invasion. Yeah.
Yeah. How come his Wi-Fi can reach a spaceship, but I can't get it in my bedroom? That's pretty amazing. All right, you're up.
Just a general, again, back to cognitive indolence. It's like, a way too exaggerated pause, and then whether it's responding to, the Black Widow dropping down into but it's that what everybody just loses any sense of training and responsivity, no matter what it is. It's just something pops up and everything just slows down and gets frozen. So the whole fight or flight. Yeah. There's a pause with a lot of things, but Hollywood is just overkill with that really embarrassing pause. Where where something doesn't happen, and then next thing you know, you look at some of the Pierce Brosnan scenes where he's he's surrounded by all of these guys, or even Daniel Craig, and I think his first one where he's finally catches that hostage. He's finally got an incredible chase scene.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Doing the base
Hardcore guys,
jumping.
yeah.
Oh my God! Finally gets him. Then he throws down his gun, and then he hits something that explodes, which never would have, right? But everybody just pauses just before he does that, and next thing you know, there's a huge hole. He's gone, and everybody's dead.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it's just, again, the suspension of belief is something he's just like, stop, just stop. So, but that indolent what the, like let's say it's Godzilla rising out of the and everybody's just like, okay, well, you might pause because you're so paralyzed, but if you're going to be pausing, you're going to be probably trembling and shitting your pants. You're not going to go, what the, and then pow, something else happens.
Right.
So,
Right.
That's that dedicated pause followed by some sort of flurry of activity, which never lines up, drives me nuts.
Okay. How convenient? How convenient is the fact that in any movie that somebody's got to go somewhere, there's always a parking spot in front of that building? Do you ever try to park in a city? Like
I live in one.
Yeah.
I never thought about that though. I never.
Yeah.
That one
they
never
don't, they don't ever show anybody going through a parking garage unless a crime or an action set piece is going to happen in the parking garage.
No.
If they have to go to the court building the lawyer, he pulls right up front and climbs up the stairs. It's like Batman pulling up in front of Commissioner Gordon's place in the old TV show. Always had a spot right there.
Well, yeah, it's because
Maybe they saved Batman's spot. Okay, I'll give him that one because
he had some. Yeah, it was blocked
he had
off.
some drag.
Yeah.
But these the TV shows and stuff, everybody's got a great parking spot, and nobody has to parallel park either. They can just pull right in.
Can you imagine Batman in that? Was it a mixture of a Plymouth Fury, or what was the original car? The
Barris car.
Can you imagine him trying to 3-point park that?
Futura. It was a Futura.
It was a Pontiac. I think Pontiac was the Futura. Yeah,
could be. Yeah,
and I think it was a hybrid with a. I could be getting it wrong, but I think the Plymouth Fury had some. And again, your people will be like, go home. But can you imagine them? Holy parallel parking, Batman.
You're trying to park that thing.
You remember getting your driver's license in Florida and having to do that? What car did you take your test in? I'm curious.
It was either the Rambler or the VW.
Oh, mom's 72 Bug.
Yeah, it was either that Bug or the 64 Rambler.
Mine was our grandfather's Plymouth Valiant, the purple car.
Yeah.
After he passed.
Yeah.
That's what I had to do my 3-point parking with. Yeah.
Where I really learned to parallel park is when I used to go into New York City every week, and I didn't have the money for a parking garage because they were expensive as hell, but I would scour the streets and I do the tap and go method. You get it in till it stops, you go forward till it stops, and I got to the point where I could thread a needle with my car.
Well, especially I remember you and I in the Bug on that trip up to Villanova on your way to New Jersey.
Oh yeah,
that was
some packing.
That was hilarious. We were so broke.
Oh yeah. Well, Dr. Mass says it was a Futura. Okay. Cool.
There we go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's packing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you got any more?
Let me just scan here.
I got two more.
So, but I will want to point out, in terms of, back to Chekhov's gun and just and learning, being a younger kid and appreciating great storytelling. I was reading comic books, but I don't think I was actually reading, really reading substantive stuff until in fifth grade. I remember coming home and saying, "Hey, Graham, you were in seventh. We had just moved to Florida, and I had this fifth grade teacher, Mr. Deeth, who would read Doc Savage to us if we were if we were behaving well at the end of each day." And I remember coming home and telling you about Doc Savage and this teacher, and then you went off running with that. You bought everything and consumed it, and it just reminded me of how was it Kenneth Robeson was his name?
Yeah, Kenneth Robeson. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he was kind of like a Hemingway guy. He was like there was nothing. It was like this happens. He turns, he pumps, he fires. He turns, he pumps, he kicks, he fires.
Yeah.
And but
pure pulp.
Yeah, but reading, being able to read, pulps. That was pulp stuff from, was it the 1930s?
Yeah,
I think the original stuff, and then we got the comics, and then it was like, oh my god,
yeah.
And then I remember you got the it was like a big black and white magazine or something about him.
Yeah, yep.
And then he did that with the Hulk or something. It was like a new. Yeah, I remember you having that stuff, and then you eventually drew the guy, right?
No, I never did get to draw Doc Savage.
Didn't you draw some like special cards or something about him, or something special that was, because he was out of comics? But I thought you were able to.
No, nothing I was ever paid for. I don't think, other than unless but I can't think of anything.
But storytelling, that whole story about this guy living at the top of the Empire State Building, he's got all these cronies that have expertise in all of these things, and there's some wackadoo on another building taking a shot at him, and he's from some Incan
Mayan culture.
Mayan. It's, whoa, what is this?
Yeah.
And then character development. Maybe you could spend a little bit of time about making sure that the characters are solid, because otherwise you can have plot all day long, right? And you can have this guy does this, but who gives a crap if you hate the characters? And that's why I also hate all of those slasher movies. I love the original first Halloween, but all of those slasher movies, you couldn't wait to see them get whacked, because you didn't care about them. They were degenerates. They were like, so the character development to make you feel even connected to a very flawed character. And movies have so many flawed characters, like Humphrey Bogart in Treasure of the Sierra Madre.
Right.
But you love that movie because he's his own worst enemy. He's so consumed with greed and his own selfishness. You still don't want him to get killed.
Right.
So I think character development, when we're talking about storytelling, it always is so much more important than these lazy cliches that we've been talking about.
Right. Well, back to Tarantino, there's not a whole lot of plot in like Pulp Fiction. There's like they're more like scenes, but the characters are so interesting. They're talking about hamburgers, for goodness sake, and the dialogue is so fascinating. You want to listen to them talk some more, because that's what makes them really interesting. The plot is irrelevant at that point. They're like I said, they're more like a few different scenes woven together out of order, and then it all comes together at the end. But you're there. The money is in the dialogue.
And he was, I think, when that first came out, I had not heard about the guy, and then in the early '90s, you said, "You ever see his movie Reservoir Dogs?" That came out thick. Oops, that one slipped out. But I was like, "No, I hadn't seen it." And you're like, "You got to watch this movie." and the dialogue about that one scene where you got to train the undercover cop to be able to tell a story that's plausible. So he's on the rooftop and he's still working that story about how you met this girl and how to. That's brilliant.
Yeah,
I mean, that's brilliant.
The scene with the tipping, where they're in the restaurant. Mr. White doesn't tip. What do you mean you don't tip? Lawrence Tierney is on his ass. It's like, what do you mean you don't tip? That's such a great scene.
And Steve Buscemi is doing the little fly violin thing or whatever he's doing. He's like, you hear this? Here's it, because he was so cheap. Yeah, that was Gene Tierney's brother, Lawrence Tierney.
Yeah. He was arrested.
He was hardcore. He was so stiff in all of his movies.
He was a hard ass.
Tough chew to watch, but
not a great actor. A little wooden, but he was good in that because he was really being himself. He has that kind of tough.
And what did they? Okay, so here's another one, just randomly because we're talking about Reservoir Dogs. Is the they used to call it a Mexican standoff. Mm-hmm. Everybody at the end has got guns, but there's some people that aren't covered with those guns, and they all drop dead. The final scene. Pow, 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 pow. Don't you. Pow, pow, pow.
Well, couldn't you allow for the fact that maybe somebody wasn't killed immediately in the first shot and he gets off a couple shots?
Well, they don't show that.
Oh.
They don't show it. If you look at who's pointing guns at everybody, there's one person that doesn't have a gun pointed at him.
Okay.
And they all drop. So that's one to look up. People, yep. And I can't remember who it was, but I think it might have been Chris Penn. No, he had the British actor who was the cop who was shot. He had it on Chris Penn.
Tim Roth.
Tim Roth, yeah. But there was one of the guys in that standoff. I'm pointing at you. You're pointing at him. He's pointing at me. But there was one person who had no gun on him, and they all dropped. So those are those moments where you go, uh-oh, something's. And I didn't catch it when I first saw it.
No,
I didn't catch that, but I caught it the second time, and I was like, uh-oh, something's wrong here. Didn't line up.
Right. Quentin Tarantino was a comic fan back in the day. He used to go to SDCC at San Diego Comic-Con. He met writers and artists like Ditko. Oh, that's cool. I never got to meet Ditko. But actually, he wouldn't have met Ditko. Not at San Diego Comic-Con. I'm pretty sure about that. Ditko didn't go to conventions. But maybe he meant to say Kirby, because Kirby was always there. Okay, so Just a Flesh Wound. This is a good one. Just a flesh wound. Injuries, no problem.
Yeah.
One of my favorites is this one here. You probably didn't see this movie, but it's called
Probably not.
Yeah. This is Prometheus. It's one of the Alien movies. It's
like a prequel or okay.
It tells you how the xenomorphs were created and all that kind of stuff.
Be right back. Got to get the puppy. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I'm not talking to you anyway. I'm talking to all the people in the chat room. Numi Rapis, Numi Rapis, gets impregnated and has a C-section that the computer does for her, and it removes this alien creature from her before it can burst out of her. And it stitches her back up, staples her, and all that kind of stuff. And here she is, kind of running through before she gets her spacesuit on. And the funny thing about this is, like, when a woman has a C-section, the doctors tell them, don't vacuum. Vacuuming is too much. And she, in the next scene, is jumping across chasms and leaping and climbing and fighting and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But in her defense, she did not vacuum. So I guess there's some truth there.
Uh, it's so funny you mentioned that. Uh, what was that? Was Alien 1979, I believe?
The original, yeah.
Original, yeah. So I was with our mom, and if there's any of our satellite beach friends on here who know mom, or of course anybody, Julie, anybody else, but mom and I were traveling someplace, and I don't know, I don't know where you were. Maybe you were in Germany at the time. Were you in Germany in '79?
Yes,
Perhaps.
I wasn't sure in '79. Yeah.
Yeah, so it might have been that, and mom was like, "Okay, Chris, you're a depressing kid. You really you got some stuff, man. So
You're
let's get you out
heavy.
of the house. Yeah, you got some deep shit, and so let's get out of the house, And we went on a road trip, and I can't remember where we were, but we went to see the original Alien together.
Oh, yes, yes, I remember this.
And so we're in the theater, and I had no idea what it was about.
Right.
But when that freaking alien popped out of that guy's chest, our mom was just, mom would just she was just so precious. She just couldn't filter it. She didn't just pull a ray and say, "All right, I'm out of here."
Mhm.
She paid good, honest American money and wanted it back.
Mhm.
So she's like, "Oh my god, oh my god, and the lady in the back is going, "Shh, shh, please stop." Hey, listen. Now she's turning around while all of this stuff's going on. All the stuff is flying out of the heads and stuff. And, yeah. And mom is debating the economics with the people. If you don't like it, effing leave. I paid good American money to watch, and I didn't pay for this. And I'm sitting here like this, thinking, okay, I'm 79. I was 13, 15. I was 15, and I'm thinking, oh my god, I wish I knew how to drink alcohol at this point, because I was like, this is so embarrassing.
You did.
Well, but that's but that was but I couldn't get it with mom. That's for
You
sure.
should have been with dad.
But I should have been with. Oh, whoop, whoop. No doubt, should have been with dad. But I paid good American money, and I don't need to see this crap. All right, mom, let's get out of here.
The injuries that people suffer in these movies, jumping out of windows and landing, and no legs get broken and stuff. And one of my favorites is the guy getting shot in the shoulder. Somehow they established way back when, in the beginning of movies, that getting shot in the shoulder was just a flesh wound. It was no big deal. You could still carry on, you could still fight and all that kind of stuff. You know how much shit is in your shoulder? There are two major arteries that run up through there. You could bleed out. You've got all kinds of rotator. It's a very complex joint, and all it takes is a bullet, 150 grains, to hit a bone, and then that entire region is just gone, and it'll never come back. That's it for the rest of your life. Yep. Yeah. But it's like, oh, it's all right. Just got a shot in the shoulder.
It's a flesh wound, right? It went right through.
Right.
The other would be closer towards the hip, but you'd see the gut shot. You'd see people getting the gut shot, and famously, the gut shot was the kiss of death. And this, if you ever watch Ken Burns' Civil War stuff, it's such an amazing documentary series, and they talk about those guys knew that if they got hit in the gut, they were dead. And so you'd often find the dead corpses the next day with all their clothes torn off. And Shelby Foote, who was just an iconic Mississippian historian, wrote about the Civil War, was in that series as kind of like the guest. He provided context and local color. He was fascinating. But he said you'd come across these men who had their clothes torn off, and it wasn't because they were on fire. It's they wanted to pull apart their clothes to see if they had a gunshot wound to the stomach, because they knew they would die.
Yeah. And those slugs, Civil War slugs, are heavy pieces of lead. Oh,
You may recall I went on before I got kicked out of it. I went on a Boy Scout trip.
Yeah, I remember.
Seven,
That's what I'm talking about. You brought back that.
I went to
slug.
Shiloh. I went to
Mhm.
Shiloh, and I didn't. You know, you and I we were from the north, and I did not know anything about the Civil War at all, other than that you know, the Union was preserved, and I've lived in the South for so long to know there's so many strong feelings still about that war. But nonetheless, yeah, I remember buying that little bullet and bringing it back to the house, and that was on our mom's the kitchen sink. Remember, it had the little I had the bullet, and then I had a little what are the trees out in the porcupine trees out in the Southwest? What are those called? They look like porcupines. They're trees that are Southwest United States. You go to the desert, you're gonna what kind of tree is that? A bush, tree or bush. It's got needles. It's got needles.
Okay.
What do you call those?
Cactus?
Cactus. That's it.
Oh.
Got a little cactus plant. That's it. Yeah.
I didn't know there was going to be a quiz.
No. You know, so I got my doctorate, but that's it. That's all I got. But that was I brought home from Shiloh, Tennessee, a little tiny plastic container with a little cactus plant and that Civil War bullet, and they were both in that house for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And the cactus lived by the grace of God.
Yeah, they don't need a lot.
They don't need a lot.
Okay. We're going to wrap it up here with one last one.
Okay.
And this is it's not necessarily a cliche, but it is very prevalent in films. And this is called the Wilhelm scream. This is funny.
Yeah, I'll just fill my pipe.
You guys will never hear this scream again the same way.
Oh,
almost ruined George Lucas's career.
Howard the Duck.
Ah! Well, you guys get the point.
We get it.
It's so ubiquitous, which is what that it's used today in TV shows and movies. Originally, it was from a 1951 movie called Distant Drums, and a guy was getting attacked by an alligator or a crocodile, and that's the actor that made the noise. But it wasn't until the 1953 movie, The Charge at Feather River, that they showed there, where the character is called out and he says, "Come on, Wilhelm." And he goes, "Okay, I'm just going to light my pipe," or whatever. And then he gets the arrow stuck in his leg. And then they used it again for that. And then it became known as the Wilhelm scream.
That's
and
funny.
That movie, it's in everything. I thought that was kind of a fun way to end it. It's sort of a cliche, but it's kind of endearing as well that it's in so many movies.
So some cliches are welcomed and others drive you batshit.
Right.
So that's That's funny to see that.
Yeah.
I never heard about that. Hang on. Swing,
Swing.
swing.
All right, let's see. Let's say hello to the folks in the chat room here real
Yeah.
quick.
Open it up to the people.
Well, some of them have clicked. It's gone through, so we got to go backwards here a little bit. I hate when a Glock makes a clicking sound to be when they empty it because they don't make a sound when they empty. They lock. Yeah. Oh, you know what? That's another thing too. Is that modern films? They're not using like fake loads. If you watch a lot of TV shows, they're digitally putting the gun, the muzzle blast in, so the actors are just kind of like pointing. But the only problem is if they have a semi-automatic pistol, you're not seeing the slide go back.
Yeah.
In some of these. I've caught a couple of these shows, more low budget stuff where they're trying to save money, so they digitally add the bursts in there, but you're not seeing the rack go back. That's kind of weird. Dr. Mask, hello, sir. One of my favorites is the old George Reeves Superman shows where a gangster will empty his gun, then throw the gun at him. Like that will work. Yeah, there's a famous one where he throws the gun and Superman ducks, or George Reeves ducks, because, all right, it's still a heavy piece of plastic. If it hit George Reeves, it would hurt.
Yeah, but not the bullets, so.
Right, not the bullets.
Hey, stop.
Oh, yeah, here's a good one, too. Stat 0. Or every time a car leaves, no matter how slow, you hear a slight peel out. Yeah. Or one better, they're in sand. They're driving on sand, and they spin out, and you hear...
I will add to that. Thank you. Was it Statistical Zero?
Yeah.
How many times do you see the fake shifter? It's like the car is already maxed out, and then he just does this, and it drops into what gear? It's like, you know what I mean? It's like
right.
They just drop it down, and that makes it more engaged. When you're out of gear, you're out of gear.
You can only go so high.
That's it.
JP Roca says, this is fun, but super geeky. Ha ha. Okay. That's all right. Skip Edwards Art. Hey, Graham in the chat. Hello, Skip. Good to see you. Comic X-Men. Hello, Graham. Chris, the chat. Folks saying hi to everybody. Hyper Kaiju is here. Good to see you, brother. Stat 0. I put you up a couple times. Thank you for coming by. What about? Says, hail, guys. You got a fan here, Chris. Leroy says, this has been a good convo. Graham should get his brother on more often. Got a jet. Good stream, fellas. Great. Thanks, Leroy. Okay, let's see. I'm trying to find what the context is because some of the questions go back in the show. Rick Saylor. Hello, Graham, Nolan. Thanks again for all your help. Got my Return to Monster Island 1, 2, and 3, and they're awesome. Fantastic, Rick. I'm glad we could work that out and get you squared away. And thank you for your support. I appreciate it. Hello, Chris. From Rick. Christina Lynn. Hi, Christina. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Rick. Appreciate it.
I think the most unreal of the cliches in movies is when people get knocked out with one single punch or hit. It's not that easy. That's true. It is not that easy.
Especially the one shot to the head.
Right.
Back of the head. Yeah, could be, but
yeah.
No.
Yeah. Especially if the guy's waiting for it. If he's cold cocked or something like that, possibly, but
cliche. When somebody does a flip, they karate the guy over, and then he passes
he's out cold. Yeah.
He's out cold on that.
Right.
Could never understand that one.
I just saw a movie where they did that.
Yeah.
Where he did like one of the, it was, I think, a 1940s movie where the guy did like the judo toss, and he
Yeah.
tosses him and then he's out. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Julie and I watched this movie this past weekend. I think it's called, what's the major train station in New York?
Penn.
No,
Oh, Grand Central.
Grand Central. I think it's called Murder at Grand Central or Grand Central Murder. And
Oh, it's on TCM right now. It's in the rotation.
yes, it's a fun, enjoyable movie. And the reason I bring it up is because there's a part where they disarm this guy, and he hands over his gun to the police officer, and the police officer takes the gun like this, and with his thumb he puts the safety on, and then he puts it into his pocket. There's no big deal about it. It's just like the actor did it, and he just puts it right in there.
Yeah.
But there's some there's a reveal at the end where you're like, no, that wouldn't happen,
Yep.
But it's worth the watch. It's worth the watch.
Love TCM.
Yeah. There is a great one that's on demand right now called Cloudburst, which I wrote about on my Facebook page.
That, yeah.
Yeah, that's really excellent with Robert Preston. Real hard-nosed film noir. Shot in
It's
England.
crazy because you expect him to be doing show tunes,
Yeah. But no, he was badass in this.
Oh.
J.P. Roke is a fan of them. And them is going to be the first movie of 31 Days of Monsters on October 1st. Oh, this is going to interest you, Chris. The Monster Times, right?
Yep.
That we used to read.
Yep.
The articles, in a lot of them, and certainly in the Godzilla one, were written by a gentleman by the name of Gary Girani. And I've reached out to Gary, and Gary's going to be my guest on September 30th to introduce the 31 Days of Monsters.
That's great.
Yeah, that is so cool. And he's written a lot of introductions for Blu-rays and stuff, and books about the history of monsters and stuff. So this guy knows his stuff, and I can't wait to talk to him and tell him how much, He was like the first celebrity name I ever knew outside of Stan Lee. But to me, he was a celebrity because he's writing in the Monster Times,
Really? I did not know. I don't remember hearing that guy from you.
Yeah. Well, but it's because, it was before we were into comics. It was the monsters were everything. And, he was one of the guys writing all the articles. So it was a name I would recognize and see. Pretty cool.
So as I recall, the first Monster Times that you got was the Frankenstein. Godzilla. Okay.
Very first
and the first one I got was the Planet of the Apes.
Right. That one and the Frankenstein we ordered through the mail.
Right. You got the one off the rack of Godzilla.
Yes.
And it was smaller. It wasn't as ornate.
It was more like a tabloid where it was stapled.
Yes, it was bound like a comic book, whereas the other ones could open up.
Right. Yeah, like a newspaper, like the New York Times. They even use that same type of typeface.
We bought everything to do with the monsters. Buy it, get it.
Oh yeah, the Aurora model kits.
Oh yeah.
Sniffing the glue.
Well, that explains everything, doesn't it?
Well, it does. Yeah, I still see that Testus glue at these little hobby shops, and I'm like,
oh, I remember. Well, that's another story for another time. Never mind.
Let's see.
That's funny. We had a great childhood using. I think our mom was so grounded in being just like a teacher, and Dad was so playful being a storyteller. There was an intersection there that allowed you and I at least to kind of find our way doing all sorts of creative things to make sense of our world as we did, and through play and through storytelling and through music. And so it's just been amazing.
Comic X-Men, Graham. Two questions. One, do you have a favorite cliche in movies? Well, I think we've pretty much said they're not big on the cliche, so I don't really have a favorite. And two, are you open for interviews about your career? If so, how can one contact you? Yeah, just message me on Facebook. That's the best way to get me. All right. Oh, here we go. Free plug. Stat 0. I can only imagine the character is in Alien Alamo, maybe. Now over 105,000. Yeah, we hit 105,000 today. Have very developed characters. Shameless plug. That's okay. You keep on shamelessly plugging at statistical 0. I'm okay with that. And we did we hit
He
105.
seems to be a pretty big fan.
He's a great guy. He's a talented cartoonist too.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. Dr. Mass says, I read my first Doc Savage book and then tried to read some of the Doc Savage comics. What a letdown those comics were. Yeah, the comics weren't great, with Doc and his little vest thing. But the black and white magazines were pretty good. The stories in that were much more complex, and they didn't have comics code issues to deal with. That's why they were doing those black and whites. They could tell more adult stories like in Conan and stuff like that.
Right.
Christina Lynn says, I'd rather have a confusing plot with good characters than a good plot with horrible characters. I don't disagree with that.
Nope, me neither.
And I don't disagree with this. Tipping is un-American. Tipping is un-American. No, I do disagree with that. Tipping is completely American. In fact, Europeans love when Americans come because they don't tip over there. And Americans do.
Well, especially these days, the service industry, they need help.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
They need help.
They sure do. Okay, let's see here.
I've gotten some private messages and texts from different psychologists that are maybe too shy to get on here. That are saying,
come on.
I don't know. Strengths are, but oh, you guys are a riot. You hilarious. Such a joy to see you and your brother. That kind of stuff.
Nice. Oh, I wish they would have come on.
Well, maybe they did. I don't know. I'm not. You're scrolling, right? I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. That's when the guy shuts and tells the main character a sad story for 10 minutes and dies. Yeah, they're always able to get it out. Unless it's a mystery, and then they die before the big reveal. Do you remember that that those giant size comics we used to get, like DC and Marvel, the limited edition series, right? Yep. And there was a Batman one in there, and there was a story from Batman #5, and it was about the world's greatest detectives meet at like this convention to honor the one old detective that everybody acknowledges the greatest. His name is Dana Dry. And so they're all sitting around, and it's like you got your Charlie Chan guy, you got your Batman, you got your Sherlock Holmes kind of guy, all this kind of stuff. And so the elderly Dana Dry gets up to address everybody, and he's shot dead. And they're up on like a second story, and there's only one window. And so now it's a mystery, is how did Dana Dry get killed? Right. And now the world's greatest detectives are going to figure out how this happened as a way to honor him. So they all go off in their own ways and follow their own leads and stuff like that. And of course, Batman figures it out. And in so doing, he figures out also that Dana Dry knew that he was Bruce Wayne. And so at the end of the story, everybody comes back empty-handed, and Batman says, I got nothing too. But what he reveals is that Dana Dry was dying, and he killed himself and gave the mystery as a gift to these detectives as a final gift. And the way he killed himself was he set a flintlock up with a magnifying glass in the window behind him with a wooden block at the bottom. So
wait for the
sun fired it off, it shot him, and the heavy block tumbled the gun off the windowsill, leaving no marks, and landing in the moat below or whatever it was. So there was no trace
Yeah.
And I thought that was such a clever story
Yeah.
that Bill Finger wrote. And it's from Batman #5. You know, I wish we had stories like that now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Oh, I see. JP saying tipping is un-American is from the petrified forest. Okay, I didn't get the context. Thank you for explaining that.
Oh, Humphrey Bogart with his wooden hands.
Oh yeah,
Duke Mantee.
Duke Mantee. Yeah.
Night night. That's so bad.
You're thinking of the artist Gianni. That's not who I'm talking about. The guy I'm talking about is a writer. Oh, and Dr. Mask. Yep. Are you still 31 Days of Monsters? 8. Yeah, it'll be 8 a.m. Every day in the morning, just like last year.
And this is how many years total, and then how many years going live with it?
I think this is the 9th year.
Wow, that's great.
That I started it on Facebook.
Yeah.
As posts, as daily posts, and then last year I did it as I started my YouTube channel. I did it to inaugurate my YouTube channel and do it as a YouTube show, which is cooler because then I could show the trailers and little images and stuff. And
absolutely,
so
really capture the mood of it and the ambience and the atmosphere.
Yeah, lead off the thing with the trailer, get everybody in the mood for it,
Yeah.
So I got a cool list this year of new stuff.
Yeah.
So there's old stuff. I mean, when I say old, I mean they were made a long time ago, but then there's also new stuff in it as well. So it's a nice combination of the decades of various monster type movies. So
and as I recall, you're not ranking them, are you?
Mm-mm.
You're showcasing these as just wonderful.
Yeah. Check them out.
It's not like Halloween the 31st is going to be your favorite all-time monster movie.
Well, if I did that, it would be the same one every year.
Right. Well,
and
right.
People would stop tuning in for on Halloween. It was the thing from another world.
Which I've watched probably, too many times.
No, there's that sentence doesn't even make sense when you're referring to that movie.
Which one?
Too many times. That you've watched it too many times.
Yeah, too many times for my own good.
Yeah.
I
can watch that anytime. Early Graves, now we thanks a lot. This is in reference to my technical prowess. There were times I would knock myself out of the stream, and so all you would have was the background and the people in the chat, and then I have to struggle to get back in to the stream, and so it got to the point where it became a drinking game. Whenever I screwed up, people in the chat would go, "Drink."
Well, here's my Elvis water.
There you go, Elvis water. It's Chekhov's vodka.
Yeah, that's funny.
Okay, gang. I think I got everybody here.
Good.
Oh no, I missed this one somehow. Once upon a time in Mexico, the first shootout in the church, their guns didn't get sent to the set on time. The shot firing was computer generated. Banderas kept making shooting noises with his mouth. That would be me. If I was the actor, and there was no sound effect coming out of the gun, I'd be making the noises, just like when we were playing Army as kids,
Oh, yeah. Bracka.
Great conversation. Every time someone
the
picks up a
Punisher
gun in a movie, it makes a clinking sound. Oh, yeah, we covered that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I
think we're good.
Yeah, I think so. Alrighty, gang. Hey, thanks a lot for tuning in to this episode of the Storytellers. Tomorrow night, the Professionals will be on Aaron's channel, and that's one of the we'll be doing the game show, one of Aaron's famous game show nights. So that'll be a lot of fun. I'm not sure if we're going on at 7 or 8. Somebody had something going on. I think we might be going on at 7 tomorrow. But just look for the message and tune in for that. And if you're in the Atlanta area, Chris has a band. Before we sign off, you want to tell the folks about your band?
We're rebooting now because COVID kind of shut us down, but we're called One Headlight. We are a tribute band for the original MTV generation. We've lost our lead guitarist, but we've just hired a new person, kind of rebooting that. But we've played major festivals with a couple thousand people in front of us. We've been to Miami, Scottsdale. If you like 80s and 90s pop rock, we're that band, complete with wigs and all sorts of costuming. So it's just
nice,
a ton of fun. But thanks, Graham.
Yeah, sure. And do you have any dates scheduled?
No, not now. We just recently auditioned for this new guy because COVID shut us down, and Jeff is now kind of permanently in Phoenix, Arizona. So
okay. So if you were going to announce it, you would announce it on your Facebook page?
Yeah, I've got a Facebook page. I have oneheadlightband.com. Then we're also on Reverb Nation. Then you type in One Headlight Band. And so there's many different ways, but we'll stay in touch.
Yeah. So
thank you.
Check out his Facebook page if you're in that Atlanta area, because I've heard these guys play and they sound great. So
thank you.
So that's it, gang. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will catch you on the flip side.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Graham.